When an FBI director says, "We got our man," the public believes it. But what happens when that statement isn't true? Senator Peter Welch just pressed Director Kash Patel over a false announcement in the Charlie Kirk killing case, and what followed exposed not just a slip-up, but a deeper problem inside the Bureau itself. This isn't just about one mistake, it's about trust, power, and accountability at the very top.
Thank you. Senator Welch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And just at the outset, I just want to say what I think all of us believe, and that is that the political violence that is so afflicting our country, it doesn't matter whether it's from the right or the left. I mean, all of us have an obligation to fiercely advocate for our point of view. All of us have an obligation to respect people with whom we disagree. The folks we disagree with are our opponents, but they're not our enemies. And I hope all of us keep that in mind and do the best we can to set that example. I want to congratulate the FBI. I want to congratulate the Utah state and local law enforcement for the very good work that it did in apprehending the violent assailant of Charlie Kirk, and that is a terrible, terrible tragedy. Director Patel, at one point you made an announcement that the suspect was in custody. We got our man. It turned out that was not true. In fact, I think that was about 27 hours before the person now in custody was apprehended. Why did you make that statement?
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you letting me address this. What the FBI does is not just locate and find suspects, but we also participate in eliminating subjects. And what we had at the time was a subject in custody in relation to this investigation. So in my commitment to work with the public to help identify subjects and suspects, I put that information out. And then when we interviewed him, I put out the results of that. And could I have been more careful in my verbiage and included an A subject instead of subject? Sure, in the heat of the moment, but I was doing the best I could.
In all candor, I don't quite get that, because if we have our man, that would suggest to the public that everybody can rest and relax and not then continue to provide information to local law enforcement and to you. Well, so that was a mistake.
I don't see it as a mistake. I see it as something working with the public to identify that there was a subject in custody.
If you put out a statement that says we've got our man, and in fact it turns out that you didn't have your man, that's not a mistake?
But that's not what I said.
Well, I'll go on. That's my understanding. A second thing that is really important in the FBI, but it's important in every agency, is that the folks who are doing good work get supported for the work they're doing. And a number of highly successful FBI agents have been let go. And I want to just ask you a little bit about that. You know who Brian Driscoll is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And my understanding is he served at the FBI for over 18 years. You agree?
I believe that's accurate.
Special agent in charge of the Newark office. He was commander of the FBI's hostage rescue team. That's a very prestigious and responsible position, correct?
It is.
Section chief of the Critical Incident Response Group's tactical section. You've got to be pretty good to get that high responsibility. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
He oversaw 55 SWAT teams, and they're like the elite of the elite, right? They go in to the dangerous situations, right? He got a Medal of Valor for his participation in a raid on ISIS terrorist Abu Sayyaf, who had kidnapped American citizens Kyla Mueller, right? Mueller? Is that right?
I know.
You're in agreement, right?
I know Kayla Mueller's family, yes. I know this.
Okay, and he got Kurt Meyer, somebody who had barricaded himself in a bar after he killed 4 people and wounded 2. And Driscoll was part of the team that went in there and took that guy out, right?
I don't have all the details, but I'll take your word for it, Senator.
And he got into trouble when Emil Bove demanded a list of FBI agents who investigated January 6th and was apprehensive that what did happen ultimately would happen, and that is those folks would get fired. I mean, do you agree with me that a boss who stands up for his subordinates when they did the job that was asked of them is a stand-up person and somebody to be admired?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
But Driscoll got fired, right?
Again, that matter is under litigation, and the matter you referenced occurred before I was
Okay, but
director.
let's just keep it really narrow here. He's fired, right?
Yes, he was terminated.
And he has to be, there's somebody communicates to him that he's terminated, correct?
That's my job.
That's your job. So you communicated to him that he was fired.
I did.
So, you know, I have a hard time with this because that record suggests to me that this person is like worthy of consideration for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he got fired.
But there's also a record of other information that was available, and now that this matter is pending litigation, we will get that out in due course. But as you can
this
agree.
So-called, so you've got, quote, other information that you see as a valid basis to fire somebody who, from what I can tell, had an absolutely outstanding record and who crossed the threshold of getting in trouble because he was standing up for agents serving under him who did work that was assigned to them that happened to be related to the January 6th uprising.
Again, you're correlating based on your information the reasons for his termination, and I'm telling you.
No, that's right. Let me ask you another question. You know,
When Senator Peter Welch sat across from FBI Director Kash Patel, the tone was calm, but the questions were surgical. Welch started with empathy, condemning all forms of political violence. But soon, the conversation turned into a quiet dismantling of Patel's credibility. Welch pressed Patel about his premature announcement claiming, "We've got our man" in the Charlie Kirk killing probe, when, in reality, the suspect was still at large for another full day. It wasn't just a semantic slip. It was a moment that exposed how language from powerful offices can distort public perception, even unintentionally. What Welch was really getting at wasn't just the words, it was the weight of those words. When the head of the FBI says something like, "We've got our man," it changes how the public, the media, and even investigators behave. It shapes the narrative, sometimes before the truth even has time to breathe. And that's the danger Welch wanted America to see, that trust in institutions isn't only lost through corruption, sometimes it's eroded by carelessness, by a lack of accountability for mistakes that ripple far beyond Washington. Then came the next layer, Welch's questioning about Brian Driscoll, a decorated FBI veteran fired after standing up for agents tied to the January 6 investigations. Welch recounted Driscoll's valor, hostage rescues, counter-terror raids, and leadership over dozens of SWAT teams. He wasn't just building a resume, he was drawing a portrait of integrity. Welch's implicit question to Patel was chilling. If this is the kind of man who gets fired under your leadership, what does that say about your priorities? This exchange wasn't just about one mistake or one firing, it was about the broader pattern, the fear that the FBI, under pressure from political forces, is purging the very agents who refuse to bow to politics. And Patel's insistence that it was all under litigation, his refusal to name responsibility, only deepened the unease. Because when the people at the top start dodging questions that demand moral clarity, democracy starts to tremble. At its core, Welch's questioning is about the fragility of trust and how quickly truth can be replaced by spin. If America's premier law enforcement agency can't uphold transparency in moments of crisis, how can it protect justice itself? That's the question Welch left hanging in the air, and it's the question that should keep us up at night. Like, share, and subscribe to Left Lens, where we break through the noise, hold power to account, and bring you the clarity that corporate media won't.